The Switch 2 Direct is happening fairly soon, and whilst I could make another video on, let's say, a prediction for the new roster, that would be pretty boring.
2 weeks later.
Okay, so I started on a Mario Party video, but then I procrastinated for 2 weeks, so roster time! I feel like it's a wise decision to start with the mainstays, with most obviously Mario and Koopa Troopa. Okay, now I think it's time for all the babies. We need them all back. We also need Baby Wario, Waluigi, DK, and Pauline. Now, I feel like the next game is going to lean more into spin-off, so I feel like Geno is going to come back because of its recent relevancy, ignore that. And I feel like we're also going to get some deep cuts, meaning the most logical character to add is the gun from Yoshi's Safari. Now to conclude, I think it's time to add some lost media, so let's add the Konami roads from Mario Kart Tour. You don't know what a Konami road is? Well, thank you asked. Anything to not talk about rosters, please. Mario Kart Tour, love it or hate it, is a title Nintendo certainly poured a ton of effort into. Whether it be the consistent bi-weekly updates known by the game as tours, or the extremely large track selection, Nintendo certainly put their all into this game. In order to give the updates more content in a sustainable manner, Nintendo opted to flood a large majority of the track selection with 4 variants of each track, with the exception of 2 tracks that we'll get onto in a bit. To be specific, the 4 variants are the normal variant, the R variant, the T variant, and finally the RT variant. Normal variants are the most basic, it's just the vanilla track. Reverse variants take the vanilla track and make you drive them in the opposite direction. You're a bit late, don't you think? However, where it gets interesting is with the trick and reverse trick tracks. These add tons of ramps everywhere alongside these red graded paths known by the game's code as Konami Road. You see how it all wraps around to the beginning now? And these are the topic of today's video. After all, when you usually hear Tour being talked about, you almost never hear any mention of the trick or reverse trick tracks, which is really unfortunate, since I personally think they're one of the most interesting aspects of Tour. So if nobody is going to appreciate the same track copy and pasted but with a billion ramps everywhere, BC3RT my beloved, then I guess I will. So what is it that has me so infatuated by the trick tracks? Well, to put it simply, most of them add a new bit of spice which can entirely transform how you approach certain sections of a track by taking full advantage of Tour's signature combo system. After all, when you trick off a ramp, you gain points, which helps increase your overall score, giving you incentive to want to trick off ramps other than simply a speed boost. For a basic example, take SNES Mario Circuit 1. Usually the ending segment is rather plain and boring, with the only thing noteworthy being a giant stretch of sand you can shroom through. In the RT variant, that section now tasks you with tricking off air blowing out pipes to increase your combo, and in case the footage doesn't make that obvious, it's way more engaging than just doing fuck you. That right there is proof that these T-tracks can be cool. However, in case you're not convinced, here's another example for the SNES tracks. Vanilla Lake 1. Normally in Tour it is pretty unremarkable, not the teensiest bit of elevation to be seen, and the uninspired visuals make this track pretty lame. However, the T variant tries to change this by adding a giant ramp into the middle of the track. Due to Vanilla Lake 1 being so tiny, you can see the ramp from the starting line, which strangely makes it feel a bit imposing. It's certainly more unique feeling than the original Vanilla Lake 1 at least. SNES Rainbow Road RT is pretty much just Nintendo looking at the original SNES Rainbow Road and saying, nah, chucking the original layout out the damn window, resulting in them making an entirely new track in the process. It's one of the best RT tracks too, with its heavy emphasis on the star rings making the track feel brand new. Ghost Valley 2 feels similar to its base for around the first half, but it's not long until the track gives you a giant tower to scale with boost panels to chain Mute City style. This is followed by a glider ramp having you soar over the remainder of the track. They even give you more reason to go on the slower side routes than before with all the newly added point opportunities. Doing up Plains 3 opts to make the track less, well, you know, by adding chain jumps to make the track more treacherous. They aren't exactly that hard to avoid, but they do help the track feel less barren. Okay. I know we're all fed up with the basic ass SNES tracks by now, even if the T variants do make them 1,000 times better, so let's flip the switch and analyze the tracks that don't feel cobbled together in a matter of minutes. DS Shroom Ridge is one of the few tracks to have phenomenal T and RT variants. Starting off with the T variant, this one says, "Oh my god guys, it's Wiggler Wednesday," and replaces all the moving cars with Wigglers for some reason. It's so stupid, but I also find it to be a funny change regardless. The ending section also got completely changed. You know that giant landscape you usually get a glimpse of as you barrel through the ending U-turns? Well, now the track guides you over it, giving the track an entirely new feel. On the other hand, the RT variant specializes in the bouncy mushrooms previously found in Mushroom Gorge, having you traverse over the off-road shortcut with them, alongside letting you bounce over and miss that cliffside section. In fact, reusing the bouncy mushrooms is something the T and RT variants tend to do a lot. 3DS Mario Circuit does this, Royal Raceway does this, DK Mountain does this, Maple Treeway, etc. I don't mind them using this concept a lot, I just want it to be used well. Something along the lines of DK Mountain using the mushrooms to make you traverse part of the cannon shot section manually is way more interesting to me than just let's add mushrooms because what else are we gonna put here? One of the most standout RT variants to me is the one for Yoshi Circuit. Instead of making the track shaped like a... Actually, I'm blind, I can't tell what that is. Nintendo instead makes you travel over the boundaries of the island, even having you just go on the normal route at one point. It's as weird as it sounds, but it's also cool if you ask me. You'd think from Calamari Desert's appearance in Mario Kart 8 that they'd make you go on the train tracks for its trick variants, but no, that's saved for a different track being Calamari Desert 2. Instead, the RT variant has you doing a stunt similar to Yoshi Circuit where you climb over the borders of the track, ignoring the original layout entirely. I wish they'd do more trick variants like this, because aside from these two, the only other trick variant which has you scaling over the walls of the course is Speed Queen Sprint. Speaking of which, in its trick variants, not only does it have you jumping over the bathtub segment, they also make use of note blocks, an asset not used in any other parts of the game, aside from Room 3. The Mario Wiki is wrong! I don't know, maybe Nintendo just fears music or something. Explains why they haven't been adding anything good to this fucking app. Why do we have so many NES games but only one 3DS one? There's only a few more to highlight now. Yoshi's Island is similar to Shroom Ridge, where both of its trick variants are really good. The T variant makes use of those spinning wheels from 3DS Bowser Castle, for some reason. Like really? This has to be the most random addition out of all the T variants in this game. Meanwhile, the RT variant has you driving on top of the fortress that you briefly see whilst normally playing. And this is so... topping? I'm British and I've never heard anyone say that before. Los Angeles Laps Free lets you drive on top of this random building. In my opinion, driving on random stuff, usually only seen in the background, is a great way for these RT variants to spice up the tracks. However, the best example of this is with Coconut Mall T. The track is normal for the most part until you jump out of the mall where it has you going onto the beach. It's so unbelievably random, but I love this. Moments like these are why I like the T-Tracks so much, and why I want them to be remembered more fondly than just adding ramps to pre-existing tracks, because to me, there's so much more than that. But are there any bad ones? Yeah, obviously. I think the most straightforward example of a bad trick track is RMX Mario Circuit 1. I mean, it's not awful on the surface, it's just kinda generic. When people say T-Tracks just add ramps to pre-existing tracks, then I imagine something like this probably comes to mind. However, alongside being generic, it also has two of my least favourite tropes of the T-Tracks: absurdly large drops, and more importantly, less combo potential than the original. Let's cover the first issue, the large drops. To put it simply, having to wait multiple seconds just to hit the ground again for no reason is annoying, especially when Tour has that ticking timer in the background being the combo counter. And then the course also has less combo potential in many spots because for some reason they removed the coins from the slower alternate paths, ridding of the decision making the original version had. SNES Cooper Beach 2 is arguably worse though. The original version already sucks, cause... well, the footage should sort of just speak for itself. So when making the T variant, obviously the most natural way to spice up the track was to add like barely any ramps. And then the final ramp has a massive drop. Oh my lord. Arguably the worst offender though is Rock Mountain RT. Why? Because it didn't get one. So you're telling me that out of all the tracks to not give an RT variant to, you choose the one with numerous giant open spaces perfect for ramps to be put in? This has to be some sick twisted joke, surely. In case you didn't catch it before, the track you're seeing on screen right now is not any sort of T variant. This is the reverse variant. Hard to tell, isn't it? Well, this is thanks to that giant glider section, which wouldn't really work in reverse without all these ramps. But spamming all these ramps is likely why Nintendo never bothered making an RT variant. This is not an excuse I'm gonna simply let slide though. There were 100% many ways Nintendo could have made an RT version of Rock Mountain, and have it still feel unique. One idea which I thought of was to make the entirety of the giant open grassy area suspended high up in the air on top of the Konami Road, only having you touch the ground for the end of the track once you reach the cave section. It'd be pretty unique and would fit well with the track's general theme of having you elevated high up in the air. Regardless, whether you like my idea or not, receiving any RT variant would have been better than Nintendo just popping out and doing none at all. However, the biggest crime is by far the exclusion of any T variants for GBA Bowser Castle 4. Didn't deserve it anyway. My distaste for Bowser Castle 4 is something I like to think I've made quite apparent on this channel. I would show more examples, but most of those are from old videos where my mic sounded like this. So yeah, I'll spare your ears. But part of why I don't like GBA Bowser Castle 4 in this game is just that it doesn't fit Tour-like at all. How am I meant to keep my combo? What was the vision here? This problem is something that could could have been fixed by the T-Tracks, but of course, it's the only one to not even get a standard T variant, and for seemingly no reason? It's not like GBA Bowser Castle 4 had much potential for good scores to begin with, so I doubt it was because of a chance for the point counter to reach ridiculously high levels, especially when 3DS Rainbow Road exists, and once again, GBA Bowser Castle 4 would have been perfect with a T variant. It's not like Rock Mountain, where Nintendo was likely just scared of redundancy. So, I took it to a good friend who was quite knowledgeable on the Tour data mining scene, and we came to the conclusion that it was likely due to time constraints, since it was one of the last tracks made for Tour. Such a shame. A T variant probably could have given me something I could enjoy from GBA BC4 and Tour, but as for now, the lack of a T variant is just a giant load of missed potential. Honestly, there are so many more tracks I could talk about, but I think that's enough for now. You get the gist. While some trick tracks leave a lot to be desired, I'd say the majority live up to their potential, and I feel like they're a very underappreciated aspect of Tour. So you'd assume I'm one of those people who wants Nintendo to put T-Tracks in the next Mario Kart, right? Heck no, that would be a horrible idea! And that is for two reasons. First of all, I don't think tons of consecutive ramps that are frequently placed on sharp turns are a good thing to spam in a more traditional Mario Kart. Mario Kart 8 is a perfect example as for why. When you jump off a ramp in that game, you have very little control of your air movement. Compare this to Tour, and it's night and day how much more air control you have. This allows you to do all those sharp turns whilst jumping, something which even the tiniest of ramps stop you from doing in the more standard Mario Kart 8. It's the sole reason why Sky High Sundae has floatier physics in 8. It's so you actually have the ability to turn in mid-air and correct a poorly aimed jump. My second concern is that I doubt the T variant's core track design elements would mesh well in a Mario Kart game that doesn't have Tour's signature combo system. For example, Rock Mountain T has a newly added alternate path over the cloudy sky that's below, which allows you to gain tons of points. The caveat though is that it's also slower. However, in a Mario Kart game solely focused on winning, this would be absolutely worthless since the point incentive is removed. The track designs would also be unbearably linear. Very few T-Tracks attempt to add shortcuts, the only one I could even think of being this glider in Vancouver Velocity. More often than not, these shortcuts are forced into the main route or are blocked off entirely, meaning that every track would basically just become a mindless straight line with no ways to stray off the main route whatsoever. It'd be pretty repetitive. So if T-Tracks hypothetically were to return, I'd prefer if it were in a manner that focused less on the namesake tricks and more on everything else the T-Tracks do. The new hazards, new routes, and just in general making you approach the track completely differently than before. They'd probably have to rename the collection of tracks though, since trick wouldn't make much sense as a way of defining the tracks if we're focusing less on the ramps. But now I want to know, what do you think of my ideas? Has this video given you a new appreciation for the trick variants? Let me know in the comments what you think. Oh yeah, weren't we meant to be predicting Mario Kart 9's roster? Add poink. Okay, bye.